Good afternoon. I know I'm usually in my basement when you see these short videos. Today, though, it is necessary to use what us church folk call privilege of the pulpit. A few short months ago, when we were still gathered in our church and worshiping together, we celebrated the season of Epiphany, and I had a basket full of different colored stars. Everybody got to pull one out of the basket, and each star had a different word on it. You can see the word that I drew was truth. I took that to mean that whenever I stand in this pulpit, I am called to speak a word of truth, as I believe God knows it. And that's why I'm here today. Every morning I begin my prayer time thanking God for another day of life. Since this COVID-19 outbreak, I specifically thank God every day for the breath of life, because we know it's attacking our pulmonary systems the hardest. I'm very aware that, biblically speaking, our life begins with our first breath. Now, so just as our life begins with that first breath, our life ends with our last breath. When we can no longer breathe or are denied the breath of life, life is over. A few days ago, watching the news, I heard the words and, yes, saw images of a young black man named George Floyd, who is being held down next to the back tire of his car with a knee on his neck, and he is gasping for air, struggling to breathe, saying, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." 4 policemen watched. He was already in handcuffs. How dangerous was he? A few years ago, we heard this same phrase, and a young man named Garner was pronounced dead after being held in a chokehold by a police officer. Folks, make no mistake about it, this is today's version of a lynching. Same end result, a young man whose breath, ability to breathe is cut off. It results in death. So this morning as I was praying, I said, God, how long? How long are you going to allow this? And in my spirit, I heard the words, how long will you allow it, Judy? What can I do, God? Well, I can stand here and I can proclaim what I know to be injustice. I can shine a light on it, and I can let my brothers and sisters of color know that I stand with them. So that's what I'm doing today. I am asking you, who look like me, to join me, to stand up for justice. I'm not asking you to march into the pit of hell. All I'm asking is that you take those opportunities in your daily life. You have a sphere of influence, the people that you know around you. Just speak up, talk to them. You know the folks who will listen to you. You know the folks who respect you. Talk to them and have this conversation about what it is like to be a person of privilege. Because if you're white like me, you are standing in a position of privilege, one that our brothers and sisters of color do not have. We need to speak out about this. I have 2 adult sons. I never had to worry when they went out at night or left the house that day, whether or not they would come home that night. simply because of their color. I never had to think about that. That was never in my equation. Yeah, I worried about them getting into shenanigans, but that's what every parent worries about. My sisters and brothers of color should not have to worry about their children either. If we as Americans truly believe that all people are created equally, then we need to ensure that all people have the same rights. Don't leave it up to our brothers and sisters of color to take a stand all alone. We need to stand with them in their demand for equality, in their demand for dignity, and their demand for safety. Make no mistake, silence implies consent. We can no longer be silent when our brothers and sisters are suffering. So I ask you to join me and call for an end to this type of injustice and stand with each other, all of us together.